Evening YouTube. Today it is Wednesday the 19th of July. It's going to be quite a short video I think because I haven't really done very much today, although it has been a full day on the road. So let me tell you about what I've done. After yesterday's video I felt that rounding it off with the 3 jobs that ended up in Sunderland was a good point to end the day, because it showed what is the maximum you could earn from jobs off the CX as an hourly rate. But I was prepared to do more work after that, and I did actually pick up another job afterwards, but it wasn't starting until 9 o'clock that evening. And it was going from Jarrow, about 10 miles from where I ended up, going to a place in Scotland that I can't pronounce. I'm not going to try to pronounce it, but it's south of Oban, so it's quite, again on the east coast, quite a long way in. It was a 4.5 hour journey according to the CX app, which is probably about 5 hours according to Google Maps. And so I picked that up and made my way over to Jarrow. I did a bit of shopping because I'd run out of food and had a bit of a break, and then got there on time. It was a 9 o'clock pickup. Got there with 1 pallet, and I bid £290, 290. And it was to be picked up last night and delivered this morning at 8 o'clock. I will try and say the name of the place. It's Clydebank. I'm sure that's not how you say it. That's how an English person says it. Clydebank. Lock. The way it's spelled is lock, gilp, and head. So if you know how it's pronounced, actually no, I can probably put it to Google. I can work out how it's pronounced. I'm too tired to do that right now though. I'll do it when I get home. So that was 244 miles according to CX, and it was on the system as a small van job, and it was just a single pallet, single item on it, reasonably heavy, but definitely couldn't fit in any small van. I put 290 on because it was the time of the day and going to an area of the country that I had no prospect of getting work from. My plan was to try and get across to Gilphead all the way there last night, and then deliver first thing this morning, make my way down south as quickly as I could, looking for work. But the thing about this job which appealed to me was, even if I found no work today, if I drove home after dropping this off this morning, I still would have made my target amount of money after fuel. So it was really kind of a no-brainer for me. I was quite happy to do the extra hours yesterday, and I do enjoy getting to Scotland. I was tired, and I'm tired today, but in terms of everything else about the job, I was really happy to do it. And as always, I get to learn about Scottish jobs a bit more as I was coming down this morning. I was seeing what jobs were available, what sort of prices I was prepared to put them on the bids. I didn't win much. I did win 1 job today, but I also made a few conclusions about things which I'll share with you. I'm not saying these are definitely correct, but they're things that I've experienced today which I'm going to share. Nothing that's really earth-shattering, but I think it's these little things that you learn with experience that can help you overall. So once I tipped my load this morning, I made my way the road that I'm using all the time, if you know it's the A83. I'm getting to know it quite well now. So it was the A83 I was taking south from Oban, around the inlets there, winding roads. This morning was really nice, and I was heading towards Glasgow. And on the way, I was bidding for jobs, and I won't go through all the bits I did. I do it every time. I only got one job, and it was a job from Clydebank going to Ayr, and it was a job that I recognised the shipper from yesterday, and so I put a bid on of £50, which was for a small wheelbase van going 43 miles. And I felt I was about 15 minutes away from the pickup at this point when it came up. And I felt because I'd done a job for them, they might remember me from yesterday. I thought I had a reasonably good job of getting it. And I did get the job. It wasn't the same guy that I spoke to. But I asked him a question. And I asked him, was it going to hospital? And he said it was. So I think the company that I'm dealing with specialise in hospital transfers. And this is the first thing I kind of want to show you that I think I've learned. I said in my video yesterday that £1 a mile for a small van is perfectly reasonable. And I stand by that, but then today I was reflecting upon that, and I think there's a slight caveat. From a driver's perspective, I absolutely stand by that £1 a mile for a small van job is absolutely not, is a fair price to be charging. But I do realise that I suspect that some types of loads don't command that amount from the customer's point of view to the shipper. So maybe a shipper can't even get that for themselves for some kinds of loads. So my thought today was maybe there are some kinds of small van jobs that do have a premium that you can get £1 a mile on easily. And I think these hospital jobs are an example of that. I'm taking a box from one hospital to another hospital, or they're small boxes. They fit in a car, and I'm getting £1 a mile, and for a couple of jobs more than £1 a mile. If it's 40 miles, 44 miles, I'm getting £50 to £60. So that's over £1 a mile, and I don't feel there's any reluctance on the shipper giving me that price. So I'm going to say that I'm guessing that things like hospital transfers, I think these items are done either under the NHS or under private medical companies. They must have such a margin on them that they can afford to pay a bit more, and therefore the driver can charge £1 a mile. I'm guessing. And also last night, the pallet I took from a manufacturing unit to Scotland, I got well over £1 a mile. There's no handballing. It was, I think in that case, another example of a small van job that you can get more money for, because it's an important item. It was a piece of machinery. Clearly it was custom made. Clearly it had it was going to a very remote place. So even in the day, I think this would have commanded £1 a mile for a small van job. Then there will be other kinds of jobs though that the customers just won't pay £1 a mile to the shipper. And I suppose one of the jobs that drivers can do is to recognise which kind of small van jobs get you £1 and which ones can't. And I see a lot of chatter on social media which just assumes that like it's 85p, 75p for a small van job. And I want to talk a bit here about what I would call framing, where the discussion of small van jobs frames the pricing as being, 65p for like a backload, or 75p if you're at home, or 85p if you're getting top whack. And I think people then dismiss the idea of going for £1 a mile for a small van job because they've framed in their head that the most you're going to get is 85, 90p. And they might then put on extra if it's handballing, or if it's at night, or going somewhere really remote, or London. But actually, I think be careful about what you assume about loads. I have at times been surprised, and I do it as well. I know I do it. I have a framework in terms of my pricing for a large van job. I find it really hard to price less than £1 a mile for anything in my van, even if it's not a large van job, because I've just got that in my head. If £1 a mile is my minimum. Now, it's not literally my minimum. I will go a bit lower sometimes, but I try not to. But equally, on the other end, I know I've framed from my early experience that £1.20 is a good price for a large van job, and so I kind of base my full-time rate for a morning job at £1.20 a mile. But that's my own framing. I'm sure I could get 130, 140, 150 at times if I was a bit more open to the needs of my customer, or a bit more experienced with the needs of my customer. So I'm not saying that everyone else does this and I don't. I think we all, as humans, frame our expectations based on information that we receive, either from the environment or from other people. And with social media, if everyone's telling you 85p for a small van job, then you're kind of restricting yourself to that. And I think one of the arguments against what I'm saying is that you might have tried bidding £1 a mile on small van jobs and not get it because people will outbid you. And I think that's a true observation. You will experience that. I think that maybe my answer to that is it depends on the area you're living in. It depends whether you've got experience with that shipper. It depends on your feedback. It depends on the time of day. It depends on how far you're going. All the things. I will put a link, because I think it's a really good video, to the Statesman's last video, which is saying all the same sort of things that I'm saying here, but in a much clearer way. He has used his 3 years of experience, and he instinctively knows what to charge for loads, and adding to that, he also plans and works hard. So planning, working hard, and instinctively knowing what to charge means he can earn a living. I think there are other reasons why he can earn a living as well that aren't to do with those things, but I think there's a good video there for people to watch. I'm sure everyone who subscribes to me has seen it already, because I'm sure you're all part of his group as well. But for anyone who's new to, anyone who watches this video in the future, then I'm going to link it in this video. Anyway, so framing in my mind is an important thing that all humans do. If we can just sometimes get out of that cycle, it can help you in business. I hope that makes some sense. I'm aware of when I restrict my pricing, and sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes I don't get work, and I have to adapt it slightly. But I just wanted to sort of tell you guys, don't just assume that £1 a mile for small van jobs is not possible, because I've got it a lot, and I think it's about the type of loads you're doing. Oh, the other thing I was going to say was this, and this is another one of my things that I thought I'd share with you. I don't know for a fact, but I'm pretty sure I would stick with this. I think that if you can do this job where you've got some sort of edge on other people. So I mentioned this a while ago and I didn't get really any response, and it was kind of a hope that somebody did this, and it's when I asked, does anyone do this job but start late, so not have early starts? And what I meant by that, I suppose, was as a self-employed same-day courier, because the narrative is, the framing is, you have to get up early to make your money. And I'm not disagreeing with that, because I think the Statesman proves that does work, and I do that at times as well. But I am thinking there must be a niche where if you were to avoid the 9-10 o'clock rush for jobs, then kick in with a job perhaps later in the day, maybe 11, 12, but then work into the evenings, or even start work at 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon and work till 10 o'clock in the evening. Most drivers don't do that, and I imagine there may well be a niche where you can make a living doing that, because yesterday, the 9 o'clock pickup, I got well over £1 a mile, and so I'm thinking maybe if you did specialise in evening work, I know it's less work, but if you've got shippers who did that regularly, then maybe you could find enough work for you to make it work. It's a question of, I suppose what I'm trying to explain here is, don't necessarily just follow what everyone else does in your business. If you've got a way of looking at the world, or a thing that's unusual, try and make it in favour of you rather than discriminate against you. So, for example, in my case, if I'm a late riser, I might decide, well, I'm going to stop trying to do morning work. I'm going to focus on starting work at 12 o'clock and ending at 12 o'clock at midnight. And I don't know if that's going to work. I'm probably not going to try it because I'm happy doing what I'm doing at the moment. But that could be something that I could do. And the more I do it, the more shippers I'll know that will deliver at night. I mean, last night there were 2 very long delivery journeys going from the same manufacturing unit at 9 o'clock. So you wouldn't need many of those jobs to make a living off this. I hope that makes some sense. As always, I've just rambled through what I wanted to say without planning it, and I hope the idea of framing and using what you're good at and perhaps going against what everyone else is telling you to do sometimes works. I think taking advice is one thing, but basing your whole business model on what everyone else does isn't necessarily what's right for you. We're all individual people, we're all unique. So if you've got a characteristic or some aspect about you that is different, maybe that's the thing that makes you able to do this job differently to other people and succeed where others can't. A quick example, if you can't tramp as opposed to if you can tramp, the trampers can make money in a better, more money doing this job than a non-tramper would do, and therefore they can use that advantage to make more money. Other people might not want to do it or might not be able to do it, but just because you have the option to do it doesn't mean you necessarily choose to do it. Okay, so I'm going to stop the ramble bit there now. I think that's enough that's what I wanted to share with you guys from my experiences today. That's what I've learnt about this job, and I will think about when I'm implementing it in future. Hospital transfers, if I know who does it, if I know when they're going to do it, I think there's money in that. Whether I can get those contacts is a whole other kettle of fish. Anyway, so I can't remember where I got to with my story, but I did drop off in Ayr my box to Ayr Hospital, and then I made my way south towards Dumfries, put the CX feed on, put a future journey going to Leeds, and I worked out that if I just drove from there to Leeds, I'd be in Leeds about 4:30. So I aimed for there, put a future journey on, going anywhere, see what jobs came up on the CX. And not an awful lot, to be honest, came up. And what I did notice was there were no jobs popping up in south between where I was and Scotland. There's the odd job in Glasgow, which I wasn't going to go back for. A really good job in, I think it was Prestwick behind me, I didn't get. I wouldn't go back for. But because I set my future journey, a lot of the stuff I was getting alerts for was picking up at Leeds between 3 and 6 o'clock, let's say, because I was going to get there for 4. So I don't know whether it was because I'd set my journey to be in Leeds at that time, and therefore it was only picking up jobs on the way when I predicted I would get there, or whether there were just no jobs between me and Leeds. And I think it was that I wasn't too far away from the current jobs that would have been sort of Lancaster way and Preston way and sort of Carlisle way. I think I probably was too far away at that point if there were any jobs there. So I ended up looking for jobs, bid on a few jobs coming down, and then changed my future by about 2 o'clock. I changed my future journey to home. I knew at this point that I'd earned enough money from the little job I owned last night, the job this morning, that I wouldn't need to make any more money to make today work. So I just kept looking for jobs, bid on a few, didn't get anything, and the closer I got to home, the more I thought I'm going to stay in my bed tonight. There was a really good job that I nearly bid on. It was going from Leeds to Glasgow, and I was half an hour from Leeds. I could not face another night back up tramping, not tramping per se, partly the travelling because I've been travelling for 2 nights already, but mainly ending up in Scotland tomorrow morning would have been, I think, too much for me this week. And I think if I got that job, I would have to find my way back down on Friday, same problem I had today. So I'm going to get in bed tonight. I'll share my stats with you in a moment. And I think that if I was not quite as tired, maybe, I would have probably gone for the Leeds Glasgow job. It would have been quite an exciting thing to do, but I just wasn't quite there today. A bit too tired. Yeah. Okay, so let me give my stats for today. Very, very simple. So by the time I get home today, I will have worked for a total of 12.5 hours. I will have driven a total of 430 miles, 430 miles. My average fuel costs for today are 14.03 pence per mile. That means that my fuel today will cost me £60.31. And my earnings gross from 2 jobs, both CX jobs, £290 to go from Jarrow to Gilphead, and then £50 to go from Clydebank to Ayr. That means that my net earnings after fuel are £280. So over target, as I said. My hourly rate, if I take away the £80 for today's business costs, then my hourly rate for today, just working it out, sorry, is going to be the £200 divided by 12.5, which according to my spreadsheet is £16 an hour, which is quite high, isn't it? Yeah, so so what can I say? That's surprising me. Now, I want to just finish off by saying this was all off the back of me doing the job last night, picking up the job last night at 9 o'clock and travelling. Oh yeah, I got to. So last night I did actually get all the way to my drop-off point. About 2:20 I stopped and tramped up and got to sleep straight away. Woke up this morning at 7, had a snooze until 7:30, then got up and was on site for 10 to 8, which was a bit early. But they were there, so it's fine. So I did leave yesterday with the £19.50 odd for my hourly rate, but I wanted to show you today what if I added on yesterday's job to yesterday and not today. Then I did work out my hourly rate if I had done yesterday's job, done the 5 hours extra, but not being paid for that 5 hours until this morning, which is what I would usually do. So for the sake of completeness, yesterday, if I was to include my 5 hours driving, which part of it was 2 hours of that was in the morning today, so it's not technically 5 hours. But I'm going to just round it up, put all the 5 hours journey into yesterday's figure. It comes to £10.57 an hour. So that is the £228 I earned minus the £80 for business costs divided by 14 hours. Yeah, so back to kind of a standard amount that I've made. So I think that's. I made a decision yesterday that I would carry on working, but I could have stopped. But I'm glad I carried on working because I made today. It got me home today above target, and I've basically just driven all day. It's been quite an easy day. I even had time for an hour to have a break and just a bit of a nap about 4 o'clock because I was just too tired at that point. So I did stop for a bit and I got a bit refreshed and I carried on. Okay, Okay, thank you very much for listening to my video again. Oh, actually I forgot. I better just check before I go my current subscribers. It might have changed from yesterday. Yesterday, if you remember, it was 94. So today, I'll just log in. There we go. So today I've got 96. Thank you. I've got another 2 today. That's brilliant news. Thank you very much for you two guys for joining us in the last 24 hours. It seems like only yesterday that I did a video. Okay. Thank you very much for listening to my video yet again. What have you learnt today?